We're about 2 weeks away from the UK elections. The pound dropping as recent polls show that the ruling Conservative Party's lead is narrowing. Who better to talk to? An exclusive interview is Paschal Donohoe, Irish finance minister. He joins us now from Berlin. Really great to talk to you today. What's your estimation of what happens in the next sort of 12 months? Do you think a free trade agreement is realistic by the end of next year?
I think it's a very demanding deadline to have such significant and complex work done by then. But of course, the European Commission and the European Union will be ambitious, and we will look to get the work and the negotiation completed as soon as possible. I think in terms of the phasing of all of this, it will be first whether the withdrawal agreement is passed by the 31st of January. And of course, that is dependent on who has a majority in the House of Commons. The next phase will then be whether an extension of the transition period is required. The deadline for that then is a decision by the summer, with the current anticipated deadline being the end of next year. So there are different posts we need to move through, but I believe the European Union will be ambitious in looking to reach agreement.
We can't get away from Brexit when we talk to you, even though you're not on the other side of the Irish Sea. But you got to wonder, do we have a workable border agreement from the Irish point of view in the Brexit document that the British Parliament passed?
Yes, we do. I mean, it's a unique agreement that recognises the unique circumstances on the island of Ireland. The British government, the Irish government, the European Union have played a really collectively very imaginative role in looking to come up with an agreement to prevent the development of a hard border on the island of Ireland. I believe the agreement that has been reached between the EU and the UK does deliver that insurance policy. I hope it's not needed. I hope we can reach a trade agreement and a future political agreement that means that that insurance plan is not triggered. But if it is triggered, I believe it will work.
We get all kinds of commentary over here in the United States about what all this might mean, and the idea that the British may cause a problem with the border has just raised, as far as we hear, the odds of a united Ireland. Does it play that way over there, I wonder? The idea of the British, the United Kingdom breaking up and maybe the two halves of Ireland uniting again?
I think we're many phases away from something like that happening. The Good Friday Agreement is very clear that there would have to be a possibility of agreement being reached to then trigger a border poll. A border poll is what then looks at the future status of Northern Ireland and whether it is part of a broader Ireland. The view of the Irish government is that the timing is not right for a poll like that in fact it would be very counterproductive. What we now have to do is all work very hard to see, can we come up with a new agreement, a closer relationship between the UK and the European Union. And that is where the majority of our efforts now need to go for the foreseeable future. We have a really strong insurance policy that has been negotiated between the EU and the UK. We want to avoid, as I said, that insurance policy being triggered, re-engage with communities of Northern Ireland and see the institutions in Northern Ireland, its own executive, its own parliament, get that up and running all over again.
Yeah.
It hasn't been in place now for 3 years, and our focus is on getting those institutions in place now.
So part of the reason why you're in Berlin, as I understand it, is you're going to be meeting with Christine Lagarde, head of the ECB. I think tomorrow it is. The rhetoric from her is that it's all about fiscal stimulus. Do you think that Ireland or the rest of Europe should be engaging in fiscal stimulus?
Well, Ireland is already playing a big part in how we can increase capital investment in our own economy. We've increased capital investment in our economy by 90%, versus where we were in 2016. We've gone from approximately €4 billion worth of capital investment in our economy to now, for next year, just over €8 billion. So we are playing our part in that. As to whether the rest of Europe needs to be going on a similar profile is very much a decision for my other finance minister colleagues to decide. I think we do need to look at how we can invest more into Europe's future. And clearly now some of the effects of low interest rates for longer are beginning to cause some concerns in relation to, could expenditure do more, should fiscal policy be more activist? But in Ireland, we're already playing our part in that. And in fact, my ambition is now how we can grow our surplus after many years of being in deficit.
The European Parliament tomorrow is supposed to confirm the new members of the new EU Commission. What do you expect? How are things going to change, if at all, under Ursula von der Leyen?
I think we're going to see some very significant changes under the new president. I think there are three in particular that I think will be very important for the future of Europe. The first one is that the new president is looking to put in place a conference to have a discussion over a period of time regarding the future role of Europe, regarding how all the member states of the European Union engage with each other. The second area that I think will be very important, and I expect to see progress on this as soon as next week in our monthly meeting of finance ministers, is accelerated progress towards banking union, trying to come up with a roadmap to a deposit scheme, to an insurance scheme for deposits, and using that as a building block then towards the completion of banking union. This is a vulnerability at the moment inside our currency union at the moment of the euro, and I believe more progress will be made on that. And then finally, I think there's a big debate underway in relation to future industrial policy for the European Union, how we should be championing the development of more large European companies. There's lots of views on that in Europe, and I think you'll see a very lively debate in relation to that as well.
I want to end with something a little closer to home. Have you considered at all whether to restore bonuses for bailed out Irish banks?
Look, this is an issue that I keep under review all of the time. It's something the Department of Finance in Ireland have assessed at various points. For now, my focus is on how we can bring in an improved accountability regime for individual bankers. This is appropriate now given all the additional regulation they need to implement. And it's also really appropriate given the consequences of many of our recent banking difficulties. That's where my focus is at the moment.
So that seems like a no, not right now.
As I said, we're keeping it under review. My focus is on how we bring in that legislation, and it's a matter that I would have to take to Cabinet and then engage with our Cabinet on.
All right, Paschal, thank you very much.